All right, ladies and gentlemen of Speed Gaming 2, good afternoon and welcome to another Week 6 race of Dash Recall. Today's matchup will be between Mass Hysteria of the Lone Rangers, and Mass will be running up against Mr. Guy Average, MGA, of Team I Only Know How to Superjump. So, really looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun, and hope you guys are doing well today. Let's do a couple quick player introductions. On the right, Mr. Guy Average. For those not in the know, I would say pretty easily MGA is one of the most talented Super Metroid players in the league in terms of just raw execution. He's a very, very strong vanilla player, also a strong randomizer player, but he's got a very extensive vanilla speedrunning background. Really great player. And his team, I Only Know How to Superjump, is currently in second place in the criteria division. They are 9-2. The only two losses they have came to my team, actually, which I'll talk about in just a second. On the left, Mass Hysteria, one of my best friends in the world. Team Lone Rangers, currently looking for their first league win this season. We'll see if it can come today, but the cool thing about today's race is that Mass Hysteria is one of the members of the Dash dev team, and Week 6 is Dash Recall, which is a sort of a newer spin on vanilla map randomizer major minor stuff that we've worked on over the past, I don't know, I guess maybe about 6 months now. So we're really happy to see it in league and getting a chance to watch some really cool races this week. Also, I'll take just a moment. Some of y'all might have already seen this, but Mass and I together and on behalf of the Dash dev team have donated $500 to the SG Live in-person event. We are going to have a Super Metroid Dash randomizer tournament at SG Live this year. I will go ahead and tell you that what we end up, like the mode that will be played there, probably won't be Dash Recall in terms of what it currently is. It's possible it could be included, but we're currently working on several other iterations of different things. And once we kind of get closer to that, it's still like, I don't know, 6 months away or so. We will kind of make a decision at that point with some player input. So we wanted to get that in and settled before the end of Week 6, and we're happy to announce that. So excited for the future of Dash as well. All right, that plasma beam, getting plasma early, very, very strong. I mean, plasma admittedly has been nerfed a good bit in Dash Recall relative to how strong it is in most of the other randomizers we play, but it's still powerful, relatively speaking, here. And that bumped up their charge damage immediately to 100. And now at this point, the only way to increase the damage of the charge beam itself will be through the charge upgrades. The Wave Beam, Ice Beam, and Spazer Beam will not actually increase the damage anymore since they already have Plasma. Good Super Missile pickup here. And it looks like MGA is going to be taking the what I refer to as the Sonic route, but the Green Hill route. Also known as meme route, but I don't really think it's a meme, so I kind of don't call it that because I actually think it's a good play in certain scenarios, and certainly can work pretty well in Dash Recall if you decide that that's sort of the method you want to, or I guess overall macro direction you want to go. But yeah, so we got a little bit of a divergence right here off the bat. Let's see if it ends up making any difference. Most of the time when you meme route, quote unquote, or Green Hill route versus not, most of the time, it doesn't make much of a difference in Green Brinstar itself, but sometimes it can. For example, if Mass were to find Spazer or Speed, maybe at Bomb Terizo up here, then he would be able to check Waterway, whereas MGA, currently doesn't have anything to be able to check that. So that's kind of the only way that this would end up making a huge difference. Otherwise, this is going to be probably a more efficient route for MGA if you want to go wreck ship first. Okay, just an E-Tank at BT. Personally, I really like seeing the grapple beam early in a seed. Particularly, oh, that's interesting, wave beam being behind the wave gate. But actually, I do think grapple is a little bit has a little bit extra value in dash, and specifically dash recall as well. Mainly, ooh, MGA, he's gonna be fine, but taking the 80 damage, which was by design, does do a lot of damage when you don't have any E-tanks. But yeah, he's just gonna farm right back up and be perfectly fine. But yeah, I think the grapple beam gets actually a little bit more value in dash recall relative to the availability of the heat shield and the even 25% heat reduction that gravity provides if you choose to want to do a hell run that way. I haven't actually seen a race yet this week where somebody did a Lower Norfair hell run. I'm sure there's probably been at least a few. I haven't seen every single race, but I haven't seen one yet. Has anybody else out there seen one? MGA and Mass briefly in the same room there. All right, this is Mass's last chance to spike an item. Okay, yeah, Mass will not have any kind of advantage in terms of checking waterway early that MGA wouldn't have, so the route is not going to punish MGA in any way. I'm actually not sure what sprite Mass is using there. It looks pretty interesting. So far, only one super pack. On average, there's going to be less super packs in recall and even regular dash, but than the normal. But that's sort of a design choice relative to some other things. So they're very valuable. We'll see if they can get another one. Looks like they're not going to get another one just yet. Nice to have 15 power bombs so quickly, though. Oh, yeah, it's the Lone Ranger's sprite. Yeah, I keep forgetting to take a look at it on the elevator. Oh, it's got an L and an R on the morph ball. Nice. Spring Ball, another great item to have. That's already a really good item for it is for wreck ship access too, although they already have the grapple beam. But Spring Ball also a worst room in the game item. So yeah, at this point, they're just kind of cleaning stuff up. MGA being one of the strongest runners in terms of execution in the league, considering that there's not really much of a way for any items to make a difference in this early stage, pretty safe to assume he's going to be moving through a lot of these rooms a little bit faster than Mass. Mass is a good player, a real solid player, but MGA just has a much more extensive background and I guess pedigree, if you will. So he'll probably be picking up some time, not to mention the fact that if he decides to go wreck ship first, the pathing will also be a little bit more efficient. MGA going to pick up an E-tank here at BT, which is really nice to have. I always appreciate having 2 or 3 relatively early, just to give you a little bit comfort level and kind of already make a few decisions about different possible options. I personally prefer not to be limited by the E-tanks in the first 15-20 minutes of a seed. It does happen sometimes though. Mass is going to grab this, or he's going to check it, but not grab the power bomb there. So, knowing Mass the way that I do, I don't expect Mass to attempt any Lower Norfair hell runs. So I actually really like, from his point of view, the decision to go ahead and start skipping some of the power bombs. I probably would have picked it up because I would want a few extra just in case down the line, if the items were a certain way that I wanted to pursue the Lower North Fair Hell Run. But if you know for sure that you're not going to do that and you're just going to rely on getting Varia, I actually think that's really smart. Just because you can do something or could do something doesn't mean that you should, right? So I think Mass is playing smartly towards what he's comfortable with. And it looks like MGA is going to get use those multiple power bombs to get a Gauntlet check in here. Gauntlet cannot have any suits, but still can have a lot of really great items that can help out. Ooh, he's gonna take a little bit of damage here. He'll be fine, but kind of got caught up there a little bit on the cycle of the acid. And then it looks like Mass got a charge upgrade, so that's the first one that we've seen. So as you can see, there's an E-Tank at Gauntlet. Not bad, but not a powerful item. However, it's nice that he took sort of the Green Hills route to get it. It's still pretty efficient. But as you can see in the top right, next to the mini-map, there's a 200 for Mass. That is his current beam damage, whereas MGA only has 100. It's because Mass has picked up the first of 4 potential charge upgrades. And when you already have Plasma, it maxes out the base damage at 100, and then every charge upgrade after that adds another 100. So pretty nice power right off the bat for Mass. And just for the record, my puppy Sam, who many of you are familiar with, has now joined the commentary. That was a big yawn from her. She came in and she wants to watch the race too. So everybody welcome Sam. All right, so we got some divergence going on here. I feel pretty confident that MGA is going to go over to wreck ship. And nice find for Mass. Real quick, this is actually something, sort of a nuanced thing with Dash. Oh, looks like MGA is actually going to go down. Really sort of, I think interesting wrinkle of Dash is if you choose to go up, and in particular, if you get gravity or pressure valve and sort of go the back way through Forgotten Highway into Meridia, sometimes you, at the end of your sort of journey doing whatever checks you want to do, sometimes you might not go back for Spazer. So Spazer has always been kind of an item location where you are almost guaranteed to get it. Like, to be honest, the only way somebody would miss Spazer in the past with most vanilla map randomizers is A, if you just like completely forget about it, or B, if you just choose to neglect it, which is not a play many people make. I mean, it's one of the faster major checks, but it actually can happen in Recall due to some other routing opportunities. But it looks like it's not going to happen here because MGA decided to go down. This Lone Ranger LR on the morph ball is pretty funny. Nice quick kill by Mass there. Good job. All right, just another E-Tank there. Right now, even though Recall has, on average, a little more flexibility on potential routing options, even pretty early, right now, that the kind of seed that we are in the middle of with these two players has not really presented that. I mean, right now it's basically just been wreck ship or down. But since we don't have gravity or pressure valve yet, there's no other third option for going straight into Meridia for several checks. So we'll see what Mass chooses to do here. I'm going to assume he's going to go ahead and just check the first 2 items in Upper North Fair and then maybe make a decision from there. Also, still only having 5 supers is, let me put it to you this way. The way our miners are set up, the miner items, that they are randomly placed. So, they're not like, the game isn't purposefully trying to deny super missiles. But because we do have fewer supers on average, sometimes you'll get seeds where the supers that are present, if they're kind of in inconvenient spots, you can kind of be running around with a little bit lower of a number. But that's counterbalanced to a degree by the starter charge beam and the beams that you do get. But super missiles are, and I say this without joking, super missiles are one of the most powerful singular items in Super Metroid Randomizer. So when you have a lot of them, it makes the game a lot easier, and then when you don't have them, it makes it a lot harder. All right, so MGA gonna step into the Kraid area here and dispose of the sort of intended first vanilla boss of the game. Matt's gonna do a quick save here before the ice beam location. I like that play personally. You can save a little bit of energy. Like let's say you get up there and it's a reserve and you decide that you don't want to keep it, then you could just reset and go back to the save, and then if you wanted to start your hell run. So it's just a good little safety there. I can agree with this call there. MGA picking up that E-tank. We will see what MGA decides to do now. And let's see what we find at this ice beam location. This is actually going to be interesting if it ends up being a somewhat dead item, like if this were bombs or screw attack or something. Okay, a charge upgrade. So at this point, it's basically either do hell runs with, four is enough, but it's not. I don't know many people who would prefer to do hell runs this way. So the only other option is really to just go ahead and go to wreck ship and see if you can progress there. Not to mention, a lot of people have been avoiding some of the potential Upper Norfair hell runs in Recall, maybe more than usual, because of the game theory around how much time you have to invest in it versus what you potentially stand to get out of it. The balance is a little bit different in this than other ones. I don't understand this elevator. I can't tell what's happening on Mass's side. Somebody's gonna have to explain the sprite to me because I can't tell what's happening. But anyway, looks like Mass is gonna go up to wreck ship here. He might even check Gauntlet on the way, and it looks like Mr. Guy Average is gonna clear out these first two items, and then I guess make a decision from there about what to do. Oh, okay. That's pretty funny. Nice. One thing that I will say is that given the fact that both players already have the plasma beam and have now picked up this X-ray in Upper Norfair, that's going to help for the rest of the run. I'm not saying it makes the boss fights completely free, but even though plasma is nerfed here, the kind of like complexity of the inputs to get fast kills for Fantoon and Batwoon particularly, but also Dragon, the skill complexity lowers quite a bit with Microwave. So this is actually, in my opinion, given that Mass is the sort of lesser experienced, hasn't done nearly as many speed runs, and particularly like early Fantoon categories as MGA, I think him picking up that X-ray is actually pretty helpful for him. I actually like this play by Mass here. This is the classic Kip play. Picking up two minor items at Alpha Power Bombs. Obviously, he's hoping to spike. What he would love to have here is two supers, but in particular, one super would be great. Unfortunately, it was just double missile. I will say in this particular situation, it's kind of a dud because you already have plasma and you have two of the four charge upgrades. So the amount of value you'll get from the two missile pickups at the end of the game is going to be less than it could be. However, I still like the play. Y'all know how it is with randomizers. You try something hoping for an advantage, and sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. Looks like MGA is sort of using the business center to farm up a little bit here. Maybe he's going to attempt an Upper Norfair Hell Run. Part of the issue here is this is actually, to be serious for a moment, I'm not saying this happens frequently, but this is one of the scenarios that can come up a little more frequently in Dash and Dash Recall with the lower number of supers, because since this seed has been very stingy, MGA can't Crystal Flash. Like if you had 10 supers here, you could just kind of damage down and Crystal Flash to full real quick and then just kind of go from there. But since they don't have 2 packs, he has no other option but to farm energy if he wants to make this Hell Run. So this is a bit of a time sink. We'll see if it pans out. Let's put it this way. If like 1 or 2 really powerful items are either at Croc or in Bubble Mountain, then the amount of time spent farming here will not matter. Like it'll be like worth it relative to mass going up. But if there's not a huge payout here, a lot of this time being spent farming is kind of ultimately just going to be dead time. So this is actually a bit of a pivotal moment in the race, and hopefully MGA will have a very clean Hell Run. I have no doubt that he will, given his skill set, but you still always want to be as careful as you can when you get into these sort of difficult situations. So far, very, very clean. Oh, that is the absolute worst thing that could have happened. And he didn't get the pause in time. Wow, but he made it. Great job, MGA. Still, he's not completely out of the woods yet. He's in the beeping mode. He's going to want to get, I typically want like 70 or 80 energy to comfortably and safely get up to the Bubble Mountain bug farm, like the speed farm. But once he gets past 50, he's not guaranteed to get energy anymore. Hopefully he'll get a little bit more from some of these creatures that he's killing. But he's also looking for a super there and didn't find one. That is unfortunate. All right, so here is Mass. Hopefully Mass will remember that he does have Microwave. Even with only 300 damage instead of 900, the Microwave on Fantoon is actually very easy. Well, it's easy if you get Fantoon in the right spot. Once you actually hit Fantoon with the damage, you can actually Microwave fairly quickly and still reach the damage that you want. Mass, unfortunately, firing his shot too quickly and doesn't have Wave Beam, so that's 2 whiffs on the Microwave. My advice for anybody out there would be to wait a little bit longer, because if you do it too quickly, they're just gonna get. Oh, now he's giving up on it. It's unfortunate. Dude, how many freaking fast is Fantoon gonna give? That was about the most generous Fantoon I've ever seen. All right, well, on the other side, MGA has managed to make it safely up to the speed farm. He has 4 energy tanks and I think 1 reserve. 5 is 100% plenty to make this without really any danger. He's probably going to be hoping to spike a super missile here, but even more important, it'd be really nice for him to find like Varia or Heat Shield here to make these Hell Runs a lot easier. Unfortunately, only Spazer. However, Spazer does have value here, even though he already has Plasma, depending on what the rest of the seed wants. Plasma does get you through Botwoon Hallway, although you do already have Ice. It also gets you to the, what do you call it, the watering, the waterway location. So there is definitely some value that the Spazer can provide down the line. So far, one quick change for those unfamiliar with Recall, we've rebalanced the major locations. We actually have 36 locations instead of 34, but we've also rearranged them slightly. The Kraid location was a little too strong, And since we planned to do future stuff with area, we wanted to sort of rebalance that. So the Kraid E-Tank is no longer a major. And then so we took that one away, but added 3 other ones. We actually put an additional major in Wreck Ship, albeit at a little bit of a slow location. Looks like Mass is going to wait until the end maybe to check that energy location. So there's actually 5 majors up here. Ooh, nice gravity suit. That gravity suit is not only extremely powerful, obviously, for Meridia, but does help a little bit here in these hell runs because in Recall, it provides 25% reduction to heat damage. Not 50% the way it would in Standard, but it does help a lot. Sometimes that 25% can be the difference between a really slow farm and a fast one. All right, Mass gonna check. Another change here, we wanted to make this a lot easier to check. You'll notice that okay, not only do you not have to have speed or like spring ball to get through that quickly, but we also removed the little egg or whatever, so you can just immediately see. So that was one of the new items, double jump. I personally think it'd be worth getting if you decide to do the bowling. But Mass is now going to hopefully here be able to check the sky missile location, which is one of the new major locations. But this can be a tricky one, I will admit. Yeah, and that's exactly why. So he'll either have to try again or figure out some other method. I'm sorry, what did MGA get at the reserve location? I missed it. It must have been Space Jump. Nice, that's a great item to have. Okay, Mass deciding to make the play to just skip sky missiles. I don't hate the play. In terms of, I'm sure he feels like, he doesn't want to wait that long to check it again, which I can understand against a runner of MGA's caliber. Although he doesn't know it, but it actually would probably be to his benefit to recheck it here. But I understand the play as well. So let's see, in addition to double jump, let's see what else we find down here at the gravity location. It's kind of neat. We have 2 different cutscenes going on at the same time, kind of. One walking forward, one walking backwards. Oh, that's a big play for MGA. So both the gravity suit and Various suit being found in Upper Norfair. Basically, I mean, I'm not saying that there's 0 chance for Mass to come back and win here, but practically speaking, if one player, and this would be true in basically any randomizer, like if one player kind of goes in one direction and the other one goes in a different direction, and one of them finds both of the suits in that one location, then that's going to be a really big advantage. I would say it's probably even more of an advantage in Recall if you get a double, like back-to-back primary suit in a specific location, because of the way that a lot of the other items are no longer gating some of the progression. You don't have to have speed or ice to get through Meridia, etc. So I think it's a little bit even more of an advantage here than it sort of normally would be. That's very, very big for MGA. Looks like Mass has taken a save, I think, before checking the Wreck Ship energy tank. Again, I like being prudent there. He might feel as though there's an increased chance that he might accidentally die or something. He got to use that cool double jump there, and I apologize. I missed what was at grapple. It looks like it wasn't an E-tank. What was at the grapple location? Bombs? Okay, good old bombs. I love bombs. Bombs is actually one of my favorite items, but you know, the later in the seed that you get them, typically sort of the less value they provide. Not a terrible item to find, but when you already have 20 power bombs and are basically in go mode otherwise, generally speaking, that was kind of a dead item. Ooh, that heat shield. You know, it would have been really, really interesting if the heat shield and Varia had been flip-flopped. That would have made the race like really, really fascinating, because it would have allowed, you know, MGA to potentially have a little bit more chance or comfort level with hell running lower Norfair. And even though that heat shield will provide a lot of good value for mass, in terms of mass will kind of move through that upper Norfair section a lot more quickly than MGA did, because you won't have to farm. Unfortunately, I don't think the value is going to be enough to sort of you know, highly impact the results of the race relative to just sort of how much more efficient MGA's plays have been here. Yeah, I agree, DJ. That's a good point. It's kind of funny how some seeds, the items work sort of in terms of the theory, the items kind of work it to your advantage in terms of how you decide to check things, and then sometimes they actually work against you. But that's, you know, that's just one of the elements of Randomizer, and obviously if it wasn't set up that way, then there'd be a lot less intrigue for some of the potential strategies you could use. Okay, so Toretta, I don't want to spend, just to be clear, I don't want to spend the entire time with me on comms, like talking through some of the theory of the design choices, just because I'd rather, you know, the primary thing we focus on to be the runners in their race. However, I will say that a lot of people have mentioned that. I don't think it's a terrible idea, but ultimately, when we discussed it a lot and I did some testing, I actually think that if you made the suits incremental, like in progressive, I actually think that would have a worse impact on potential metas of playing the game. And in some ways, I actually think it would give an even bigger edge to more experienced runners. Personally, I like having them separate, and sort of the complexity that can come from different sort of layouts of the items. You could do it that way, but I do think that it would end up narrowing some of the play choices a little bit more. It sounds like it would widen them up. I actually think it would make it tighter. Well, guys, we made it. We made it 32 minutes in, and we finally have both players with 10 supers. So now that they've got 10 supers each, they no longer have to look for any minor items. 10 supers being the classic sort of Super Metroid speedrun number. It's used in any percent as well as low percent. All right, let's get geared up for a fun Ridley fight. This sort of situation, and in particular if they didn't have plasma, but this is one of the situations when I was designing a lot of stuff around dash and recall. This is ultimately part of the equation that I wanted in randomizers a little bit more. The way some of the randomizers are set up, which is not a bad thing. I really like all of our randomizers, but because of how specifically powerful just the one charge upgrade is, and also how many freaking supers are like everywhere in a lot of seeds, it actually sort of diminishes the importance of being skilled at some of the boss fights, and so it's really cool that we're getting to see a lot more extensive Ridley and Mother Brain 2 boss fights in Dash Recall. So this is one of the sort of visions of the design, and we're actually getting to see it play out in real time, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't even think I commented on the fact that Mass didn't check Wavegate last time, or maybe he missed some supers or something. I actually don't know. I guess I wasn't paying attention when it happened, but he's back here grabbing his wave beam. All right, nice fight, MGA. That was fun. Oh, nice reward behind Ridley there. I will say that I think, especially later in Seeds, I think that high jump boots value this late, particularly at the end of the Lower Norfair sequence. When you already have space jump, I think the high jump boot value is diminished greatly. Still worth picking up, still a great item, still want it, but what it sort of brings to the table relative to your potential time is, not nearly as powerful as it might once have been. Plasma showing off the part of its great utility. Not only is Plasma extremely powerful, not only does it make a lot of the boss fights significantly easier, but it is a legitimately good defensive item to have in Lower Norfair, particularly the Lower Norfair hell runs that show up from time to time in Dash. So even though he's not hell running right now, Mr. Guy Average kind of showing off a little bit about how you can use the plasma beam to sometimes avoid some pretty big damage by those key hunters. Because remember, if you're hell running, then that means you don't have the various suit, and that means you're taking more defensive damage from the key hunters. So MGA had a nice Lower Norfair there. He's going to head out and, I assume, head to Meridia. Probably at this point, I mean, I would assume MGA is probably going to play as though he's in sort of go mode here. My apologies. Some space pirates tried to invade my home, but I am happy to report that Sam has defended the property, so we are good. Sam's going to be getting a chew treat after this race. Thanks, Loki. Yeah, she's pretty great. Yeah, so as I was saying, I think there's still technically some value that you could pick up from checking a few majors. I mean, I don't think it's gonna really be a bad decision to, potentially check. I like the spacer. I think that was actually faster. Probably, I'd have to time that, but I think if you have even if you equip and unequip it, it's probably faster than doing the ice clip. Maybe it's about equal, I don't know. But anyway, there's a few fast checks that MGA can still do. Oh man, Botwoon gave him the top pattern. But generally speaking, MGA can comfortably finish the game. So I don't know exactly how much he'll choose to check after this. Ooh, and now we have Mass picking up his grav suit. Mass getting some value out of that wave beam actually right there with the way he pathed out of double chamber. Also, Mass having the classic damage boost straight into the ledge there. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And that space jump really paying a lot of dividends in that room. I would say that's one of the best rooms in the entire game to have space jump, if not the best. It might actually be the best in terms of the movement. That probably or Everest if you don't have other movement items, but very comfortable to get through Coliseum with the space jump. So yeah, even though right now there's not a ton of intrigue left in terms of, I mean, MGA is very clearly in the lead. I still like how both of these players played this. And there was some legitimate, interesting choices at sort of in the beginning parts of this seed. And then even though go mode might be somewhat easier to achieve in this, I actually feel like some of the decisions you make after you get go mode are actually more impactful in this one, or can be more impactful. There's still a lot of meta things that can go into the decisions that you make with other major items or even minor items in this one that I think are a little bit more, there's a little more nuance to some of it. So it's been interesting to watch how they have approached it. You could check the wiki for the room names, but I don't know if there's any, information on why. By the way, I do want to say this. I actually think Mass's decision to do Meridia here is not a bad one relative to his position in the race. From his point of view, he could be thinking, well, when Mr. Guy Average did all this stuff, if he went to Croc, and let's say Croc ends up being dead, then I can sort of skip that, and maybe I'll spike Very here. Now, we all know it's not going to work out, but I actually feel like this play is a perfectly fine one for him to make. And if Croc had been, kind of bombs and maybe like, I don't know, like another charge upgrade or maybe screw attack or something like that, then, this would have been a really strong play to make and would have allowed Mass to save a little bit of time. So again, Randomizer, there's a lot of elements that lead to winning. But, one of the things that you got to remember is, a lot of the decisions you make can be really good decisions that just don't end up working for that particular seed. And I've seen plenty of races where I felt like both players actually played really well, but the one set of decisions just works out a little bit better. There's one of our other, I guess our third new item there, pressure valve. Unfortunately for Mass in this seed, it's basically a dead item at this point because the gravity suit provides everything, that the pressure valve would have. So that's something he's probably not happy to see. Clearly, he's hoping to find Varia in the Meridia location, but it's just not gonna. Wasn't in the cards for him in this one. Yeah, so the thing about MGA's decision, I've actually made, even though I haven't raced any recall yet, I've made a similar decision in other randomizers. I know it's different here, but like the fact that MGA had microwave and would get to have whatever the Botwoon major item is immediately. So basically, you get to kill Botwoon really without using any ammo, and then you get Botwoon's drops, which could potentially be enough to save you from refilling at the ship. Particularly since they're sort of probably more, they're not as incentivized in this to refill at the ship, considering they have really low super numbers. So I'm actually kind of curious how this would work out. I actually don't hate the play. I don't think that every single scenario has to be. I don't think the winning play is always going to be to go around. That should be a dead Fantoon. Yeah, man, Fantoon wanted to fly off the screen there, but nicely done by MGA there. And Mass showing off another one of the changes for Dash Recall. This is one of the ones I think I'm probably the most happy with. I'll spare you the long speech, but plasma and spring ball locations in most of the randomizers. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's just that they're very, very, very inefficient. And plasma in particular, I think, is the worst of all checks because not only do you typically do it extremely, extremely late in a seed, but you also have to have like a bunch of items to even get. First of all, you have to have Dragon dead to even be able to get in. Then you have to have a bunch of other items to be able to get out. And then on top of that, it's like you almost never would do it. So the fact that you can get in now easily and kill stuff easily and get out easily really adds an additional element to some of the routing options. And the fact that we changed the spring ball location too, I think those have been things that have been very positive for sort of the style of play that we're looking for. You know, I realize that it might look as though some of these changes are just like random. I assure you that they are not. You know, obviously when you're designing something, you want to imagine what you're shooting for before you, like, it wasn't a matter of what do we want to put in, it was a matter of what are we shooting for, and then what do we have to do to like get to that. And so a lot of these items and map changes were the things that were necessary to achieve like what we were aiming at. So it's been fun to watch people race it. It's been really interesting. I think there's still a lot of intrigue out there in terms of different metas for this. And to be honest, I haven't raced mine yet. I've got my race tomorrow. I still don't really know, like, also I haven't had a chance to practice much this week. So like I actually still don't really know exactly how I would like to approach some of the aspects of this. So it's kind of cool to think about it in a different way. Thank you, All Talk. It's been fun. All right, MGA having a nice first couple of rooms there for Torian. He's basically on cruise control here. Even though his beam, you know, he's got full beam combination, but it's only going to do a third of the damage it would do normally. And he doesn't have a ton of ammo, but I will say 300 damage is still a really healthy beam for Mother Brain 2 relative to Rando. So this fight, while it might be a little bit longer than you would typically see in some of the other weeks, how it functions relative to what the opponent has is still going to be very, you know, pretty quick. So won't be too dangerous. All right, Dragon going down for Mass, nicely done. And Mass only has Ridley left. Unfortunately, he's hoping to find a Various suit here, but it's not going to be meant to be. But maybe it'll be Speed Booster. We haven't seen Speed Booster yet. Oh, just an energy tank. It'll be quite a while before we release some of our future modes. Like we want to get some area concepts in, and I think some of the changes that we've made for Recall, how they could interface with potential area concepts is going to be pretty intriguing. So yeah, I think we got some potential for some other cool stuff. Plus, one of my favorite things about the last couple weeks leading up to this is just the sheer amount of suggestions that people have provided, which we want to be very, very open to different ideas. You know, sometimes an idea sounds good, and then you get it in the game, and the way it sort of applies is not quite as strong as you would hope. And then sometimes you think an idea doesn't sound overly interesting, and then you try it, and then it turns out that it's got a really cool effect. So, you know, we welcome all kinds of ideas from everybody. It's been fun to kind of get some perspective from different players on what they think might, could, or could not work for making the randomizer even better. All right, MGA getting ready to start his 60-shot Mother Brain fight. Technically, if he decides to use his 9 missiles, it would be a 57 shot. So it'll be a little bit over a minute between now and the time that, you know, it's time to get hit with the red beam. Let's see how it goes. Well, Doc, I don't know, but maybe feel free to drop that suggestion in the Dash Discord. We're always open to listening to feedback. Plus, it'd probably be a little bit easier to explain in that context, and people could ask questions. So check this out. We're going to go into Shack Tool. We are going to have to power bomb this wall, but there is not going to be any sand. So now this check, it does not become more of like a hero home run check. A lot faster. Still a little bit out of the way, so it's not like the fastest check in the entire world, but a lot more open than it would have been prior. And unfortunately, just another E-tank. So at this point, I think it's pretty clear to Mass that Varia is either at Waterway or at Croc. I don't think Mass has any other checks. I guess he doesn't know about Sky Missile because I think he went up there but didn't end up checking it. So I'm sure that's in the back of his mind, but luckily for him, he's not going to have to feel bad about that later because we all know it's not there. Yeah, you know, Mass doing his work Mass is part of our dev team, and I really got to take a moment to shout out just how much work he's put in and how responsive he's been to feedback from people and stuff and bug reports. Mass is a really, really great guy, really hard worker, and you know, he and I were already really good friends before this, but it's been fun to actually kind of like work with him in an official capacity on some video game stuff. So yeah, he's done a great job working with us, and it has been cool that he's kind of showing off all the features for us to talk about on the stream here. So let's talk for a minute about MGA and his team I Know How to Superjump. They are currently, as I mentioned, in second place behind my team, Southern Route. My team currently is 11-0. I've got a race tomorrow to close out week 6. This is going to bring their record to 10-2, so they are undefeated except for when they played us. And at this point, I believe for them to reach the #1 seed in criteria, I think that our team would have to lose all 3 of our remaining matches, and they would have to win both of their remaining matches. I think any other combination, we would retain the #1 seed, because even if we ended up with the same number of total losses, we would have the tiebreaker on them in terms of the head-to-head. So technically, MGA is doing a good job of keeping pace here. They are not dead for the #1 seed at all. I guess technically, if I won tomorrow, that would lock it up. Or if Derp and I can get a win, at least one win from our next week's week 7, which is another thing I'm excited about racing. I think week 7 is going to be a lot of fun. But we would be able to maintain the #1 seed. But I think they're pretty comfortably in the 2 seed right here. And having a 10-2 record at this point in the league is very impressive. There are a lot of very good teams. It is very difficult to win consistently, and their team is looking very, very strong for the playoffs. There you go, Toretto. Nice. Dash. The D is silent. Yeah, really impressed with how MGA played this. I don't think MGA is the dash recall runner for his team. I actually don't remember who is. I think MGA is their power suit runner, so he'll be running the week 5 settings in the playoffs. Okay, looks like Glove is the dash recall runner. And but yeah, I'm really impressed with how MGA played in this. I think he had a really good strategy and a lot of great execution, which is not a surprise at all to see. So get your GGs in chat for Mr. Guy Average. Going to take this race down with an official racetime.gg time of 55 minutes and 32 seconds. And I believe shortly thereafter, Mass Hysteria is going to forfeit at some point in the next few minutes. So hopefully we can get both of them in here for an interview soon. But GG to MGA, bringing his team to 10-2 after 6 weeks. Nicely done. Looks like we will hopefully shortly be joined by one, if not both, of the runners. Mass, looks like Mass is going to keep going on the screen here for a couple more minutes, but ultimately he's going to forfeit. Looks like Mass is, by the way, attempting the Lower Norfair Hell Run. That's really interesting. That was something I didn't necessarily foresee him doing. However, I will say I like the decision even for him here because he's got screw attack, he's got grapple, and he's got a lot of energy, so a little bit easier. However, I will say that the Ridley fight's still kind of tough because you only have 15 supers and you're going to have to Crystal Flash at some point. So let me just put it to you this way. Hell running and dash is definitely something that can happen with a little bit higher frequency. However, I do not believe it is as free as it might appear to be, kind of on paper. And there's still a lot of scenarios out there that can be, pretty dangerous. All right, and we are joined by both of our runners here as Mass kind of finishes up here on the left. But welcome in, Mr. Guy Average and Mass Hysteria. GG to you both. We'll start with Mr. Guy Average. Just tell us a little bit about, how you approached the seed and how you think it went.
It was really interesting. I think I played this really well. Like, my execution was on point, and I just got really lucky with the checks. Because I did meme route, right? And generally you do wreck ship first if you meme route. But my item loadout was a bit odd, and I didn't want to waste a bunch of time doing slow checks. So I just decided to go down, and then it turns out that both suits were in Norfair, and it was just go mode from there. So yeah, it's just after I found Varia, it's just like, okay, this is just execution from now on, and I have to play well.
Yeah, you did play really, really well. And yeah, it's interesting. I actually think it's cool that you made the decision to do, the sort of Green Hills meme route, and then actually decided not to go to a direct ship. I'm not going to say that not going direct ship is something that should happen all the time, but I do think that, just because you go that way doesn't mean you are literally forced to continue. So I thought it was cool that you made that play and it kind of worked out for you. Mass, let's go to you for just a moment. Just tell us a little bit about how it went for you. I actually think you played really well, but just tell us how the seed felt for you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a good seed. I thought obviously I didn't make the same play as I was maybe being a little more conservative. Just kind of said, all right, well, I'm going to go down till I get to at least first part of Norfair figured out, like not even to Bubble Mountain, and then if I don't find anything, it's probably at Wreck Ship. And turns out that was not the case this time. But in general, I thought it was a fun seed. I think really, if it's not a race, it's kind of fun because then I went up to Wreck Ship and I got Heat Shield, and then I'm coming back and then I get Gravity, and I'm like, let's run up to Meridia. So kind of fun jumping you all around the place. So
yeah. Well, the next question, I'll come back to MGA for a moment. Obviously, Mass thinks about Dash Recall like almost on a daily basis because we're always talking about stuff and working on stuff. For you, MGA, since you won't be running it in the playoffs, this is kind of like the only week that you're going to be, kind of working on Dash Recall, etc. But just give us some thoughts about what you think about the mode, or any kind of suggestions that you think might also continue to push it in a good competitive direction.
I haven't really played Dash too much. It just feels pretty unique. I think there's not really any rando that plays the same way as Dash, where you have so many options. You kind of get like choice paralysis because you can't decide what to do. So generally, I like to play Dash just execution based. Like whatever I find, I'm just gonna play to that and just try not to look for too many things. So I guess if I had to think of a suggestion, one thing I actually liked about the original Dash was that the Spazer being able to break speed blocks was not in logic. I think that was like an interesting thing that I kind of hoped would be ported over to Dash Recall. But I think now Spazer is in logic to be able to break speed blocks, so I'm not really too sure how that changes like kind of the metagame overall, but that was sort of my feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, to what you said, I actually agree with you and kind of think that's an interesting element of how this can be competed. Like, I think when we think about randomizers, a lot of times we just think about sort of the puzzle of where the items are. One thing that's interesting about what you said is because of the flexibility of Super Metroid in general and the additional sort of flexibility we tried to put in this, part of the skill that's being tested is like how flexible can you be relative to what you have, right? So it's kind of interesting that that you mentioned it in that way. But yeah, I'm glad you you raced this week, and I appreciate you helping us out with some of the test races over the past couple months. Mass, what about for you? Obviously you're working on and thinking about Recall all the time. Any other thoughts that you personally have, not only as a dev team member but as a racer?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Obviously you and I talk about this a lot, so it's interesting to me that MGA brought that up, because I know when we first released Dash, you were pretty adamant, like, yeah, let's keep these things out of logic, so that way it's like a true sequence break if somebody gets to it, and that really kind of mixes things up. And I'm pretty sure I tried to talk you out of it at the time. I was like, nah, man, we gotta put this in logic. So I think that's funny that that's what came up. But I do like the flexibility. The thing that I like about Recall in particular, the way that it opens things up, is that I feel a little less stressed playing it. Like I don't feel like every decision I make is probably the wrong decision, because there's so many options. It's like, all right, well, I didn't check the minors there, but I'm probably going to find a super pack later, right? So things like that. And so that's the thing about, obviously writing it is fun and working on the dev team, but running it's kind of fun because it just, to me at least, it takes a little pressure off. But at the same time, it lets a top talent runner like MGA just like crush it. So I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I do want to. Speaking of crushing it, Seppi asked a good question in chat, and I did want to bring that up. MGA, I have seen people sort of late pause and then get the reserve screen before, but I've never seen it happen like in such an intense moment and then have to like literally finish that room like without being able to see quite as well. That was a really hype moment. Tell us a little bit about what was going through your head at that point.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know. I was pretty confident in my ability to be able to do that hell run, so I wasn't really too worried. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't get too nervous. Like I can definitely see, like, as a viewer, you would be like, oh man, like, is he gonna make it out or not? But yeah, I mean, thankfully, like, my CRT is like, the brightness is, you know, gained up all the way. So even if you get like that really, you know, dark screen, I could see pretty well. So yeah, it wasn't too bad, I think.
I think what MGA just got done telling everybody is that we have to now give him a forfeit because we have strict rules in the Super Metroid speedrunning community about how bright your CRT or PVM or screen can be, and I think MGA just admitted that his is higher than the threshold.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'll bow out now.
But in all seriousness, guys, it was a lot of fun watching your race. I'm glad I got to get home. I've been gone all day, but I got home and saw that there weren't any comms, and I was like, oh, I got to jump on this one. So any final words, just either maybe even about just the league season in general, or just anything that you want to say in closing?
Well, I'll let MGA go last, but real quick, did y'all get a chance to see the Crystal Flash animation?
Yeah, twice. It looks cool.
Yeah, that Papa Schmo put together this custom sprite for us, and it started off with like just a little tweak, and then all of a sudden he came up with that amazing Crystal Flash animation with guitars and everything. So last thing I'll say, I had a lot of fun. I think I get to race again next week. Excited to do that. GG, MGA, nice job.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, GG to you too. It was super fun. Yeah, Dash is really fun to race, so I was happy to be able to race this week. And I just appreciate the comms, Kip, and Gesture for the tracking. And yeah, I guess for the rest of League, yeah, it's going to be interesting if for some reason, you know, you guys kept, like, your team loses a match, and now, you know, we're kind of vying for that first place spot. So we'll see how it goes. Could be an interesting, like, shakeup.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little jealous, honestly, because I mean, you know, I like racing. I love racing everybody, and y'all's team is really strong. I'm a little jealous because the week that our team played y'all's was one of the weeks that I wasn't going to play, so I didn't get a chance. And then, based on, it doesn't really matter which one of us is first or second seed in our division. Like, I think it would put us on opposite ends of the bracket anyway. So I think the only way that we would end up seeing each other again would be, like, I think literally, like, if we both made the finals. So if that were to happen, I'd be happy, but I'm a little bummed I didn't get to race any of you guys this time. But yeah, man, good luck to your team next week, closing it out. 10-2 is a really strong record, and Mass, good luck to you guys as y'all continue to try to get on the board. But yeah, we're going to close it out there, guys. I know we have a lot more races. I don't have the schedule pulled up at the moment, but I'm pretty confident we have a few more going on today, and we have some tomorrow. But thank y'all for watching, and we will see you next mission.